with the Dutch Reformed Church, I'm interested in that rigor in the institutions that it seems like the CRC has built. This seems like Redeemed Zoomer's dream that you guys came and built these institutions and you managed to stay in the. It seems, if I'm reading you correctly, you stayed more conservative as far as the main body
Well,
goes.
we just had that major fight.
Okay.
And so, in many ways, the liberationists had been those who were pretty much in control of the denomination. And over time, more and more, we'd had a split over women in church office. And then when the same-sex marriage thing came, I think those at the top thought that, well, that will go like saying like the women in church office fight went. And I said, no, it won't. Plus, part of what happened, and I think this is overall within evangelical churches, there were more deconstructions among churches that tended to be just more open to the continual progressive themes in American culture. And I
Hmm.
think they lost a lot more of a generation, whereas the conservative churches did a better job of holding their youth. So 30 years later, you had deacons and elders, mostly from conservative churches, who are now pastors, deacons, and elders in the denomination, and they're the ones making the decision. Then you had the denomination for years had been trying, like many denominations, to broaden out ethnically, and they would always sort of put their confessional ideas out there. And so the CRC picked up a lot of non-Dutch people who
Hmm.
liked the conservative confessional stance. And so when we had this fight in 2022 to 2025, the CRC progressives were suddenly completely blindsided because they were completely unaware of how the church had been changing and getting more conservative over the last 30 years. I got a lot of videos about this.
Yeah.
And 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 part of it was that a lot of the more CRC progressives accumulated in the Grand Rapids area where all our institutions were, but
Hmm.
they just completely lost touch with what was going on throughout the rest of the US and Canada in the church. So then when they had this vote about, which was basically about same-sex marriage, and vote after vote, it was 70-30, 70-30, 70-30, and they were losing every vote. Then suddenly they had no idea how the world had changed, but
Right.
there it
There
had.
is that the vibe shift is very like generational. I mean, you see these recent surveys of Catholic priests where the younger ones are overwhelmingly Orthodox and conservative, but the ones that maybe were ordained around the time of Vatican II are overwhelmingly liberal.
Yep.
And it does seem like there's this lag effect with even the politics of the Vatican. Like Pope Francis's papacy and even some of the bishops like Cardinal Cupich in Chicago that are in power now, the things that they're doing are kind of this last gasp of that era before this vibe shift takes over. And like I said, the priests that are in my town and the two guys closest to me who are younger are very orthodox. They're conservative. They wear the cassock. They, they want nice things in the church. They don't want the felt banners and the beige carpets. They want to do away with that stuff, and that is definitely again coming out of the pandemic when we had so much social upheaval. I think churches, even I saw this in my church, like our Overton window, I think for like the range of social views we could tolerate seemed pretty broad. And I think we were forced to tighten it a bit
Yeah.
because you see basically anybody that was on the left side of the Overton window departed. And a lot of them left the faith altogether in the aftermath of that. So yeah, that's another fascinating thing, and I do wonder if there will be a reaction to that in 30 to 40 years, because as much as like we want to hope now, maybe if you're more of a conservative persuasion, you want to hope that yeah, all these Catholic priests who are conservative, that's the permanent future of the church in America and Canada, but that might be a bit naive.
I think so we tend, this is just an axiom of mine, because consciousness and because attention is rather monofocal, duality, we are prone to seeing dualities. And so we can talk progressive and conservative. But, again, I've been reading lately because I've been interested in the 19th century European history and how that has led to where we are. So I've been reading a bunch of stuff on um, Pius IX, for
Hmm.
example, and and then Leo the 13th. And it's fascinating the way, because on one hand you might say, well, Pius IX is really conservative,
Hmm.
and he is. But the issues he's conservative on are very much a part of that time. And so it isn't until, well into Leo the 13th's reign that the Pope actually permits Italian Catholics to vote for ministers of parliament.
Hmm.
Because what had been happening, there was an uprising. So 1848, you have all of these revolts throughout Europe. End of 1848, 1849, there's a revolt all throughout the Papal States, and um, and Pius IX flees to the Kingdom of Naples, and then finally Austria, the Austrian Empire, and retakes most of the Papal States. France comes in, retakes Rome, and then the Pope goes back to Rome. It's a long, fascinating history. I do nothing of it. It's just a fascinating history. And then, but in 1870, the House of Savoy is basically conquering all of Italy except Rome. And in 1870, he takes Rome. And the papacy, Pius IX, basically declares he's prisoner of the Vatican. He's not going to leave until they restore his temporal realm. And you see this fight from 1870 to the 1920s over this question of a temporal realm. And part of this was prohibiting Italian Catholics from participating in parliamentary elections. Now, when finally Leo the 13th allows Catholics to participate in Italian elections, well, suddenly the Catholic Church is a real player in Italian politics.
Yeah.
And and of course, Leo the 13th is remembered for, you know, this one, papal teaching, which is very much pro-worker.
Yeah,
And
Rerum
so
Novarum.
that's right. And
I
so
just read
then,
that this year. Yeah.
yeah, so then you have this other big swing. But in the end of the 19th century, the question of workers, I mean, they're all really looking at socialism, and they're really nervous, especially once you have the Russian Revolution and you have this entire world of the Orthodox Church sort of, swallowed by communism. I mean, it's a wild time. And so these are categories of conservative and progressive. The elements of those categories just keep changing
Yeah.
depending on the context that they're in.
That
And
that is so
so
true.
and so you're exactly right when you look at, let's say, the papacy of Francis, and now the new one of a new Leo.
Hmm.
I was saying Benedict 13th, I think Leo the 13th. This new Leo who sort of wants to echo that, but that workers' rights in our current political climate is a little different, even than what it was from the 1970s. I mean, I just watched this Ezra Klein interview where he basically says, the Democratic brand among labor in America is garbage
Yeah.
because they have lost the white working class vote.
Right.
And if you remember, the Democrats had a lock on that really until Reagan. So then you have the question of like these social issues and how they play in it. And I mean, so history, as things change, it's super hard to know because I'm old enough to remember when John Paul II comes in, and a lot of my friends are like, finally the Catholic Church is going to have the priests we love, or the
Yeah,
Pope we
right.
love. And then Benedict came right after him. And so it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, but then what happened with Francis? And you've got someone like Rod Dreher who, grows up sort of nominal Methodist, joins the Catholic Church, and but then leaves the Catholic Church for the Orthodox because he's sick of dealing with priests that don't want to basically teach and police
Hmm.
Catholic teaching.
Yeah.
And but you're exactly right that now you have this whole group of young priests coming in who are, they want rigor, and they're finding an audience, and people are coming to, and of course, but of course, if you're old, if you're my age, so many, and I see this in the Christian Reformed Church, so many of the people who are my age and older are watching this, and they're just confused. They cannot get their mind around it because they were so formed
Hmm.
in this 1960s, 70s counterculture that says the next generation is going to be more progressive than the last. And the conservatives believe that too.
I
And
used to believe
now,
that
yeah, and
myself.
now we're watching it. It's like, um, and then I say to the boomers, because I'm just at the end of the boomers, I'm saying, y'all rebelled against your parents and your grandparents, and your kids and your grandkids are doing to you what you did to them.
Yeah.
And but only some of them, because just as it was in the 60s, not everyone in the 60s and 70s, wore flowers and smoked pot and tried LSD. By no
Yeah.
means. There were many dutiful people. So now you've got dutiful young progressives who are, in a weird way, more conservative than the ostensibly conservative rigorists like yourself who are doing the radical thing and saying, I'm becoming Roman Catholic.
Yeah.
And the older generations are like,
You what?
exactly.
Yeah.
And
No, I,
so I'm old enough to have seen this thing happen twice, but in different directions. So even if, I mean, I assume things will continue to change, and we have no idea what AI is going to bring. We have no idea about all these jitters of war. We have no idea about whole ranges of things. So I'm probably not going to live long enough to see, I'm in my early 60s now. How long will I live? I have no idea what medical technology will be available and or affordable when I'm my mother's age. I have no idea.
yeah.
So I I'm just like, I don't know. But
Yeah.
I'm just listening and trying to understand. I mean, when what you caught in my videos is the way I am, because you know, it's between you and God and your priest, the shape of your faith, and I'm going to respect that.
Yeah.
It's not my job to start tinkering with you, because good grief, you're a father and you got a wife and you got kids. You don't need some Calvinist minister tinkering with you from across a border.
Totally. Well,
So,
I mean, yeah, and definitely as a new convert, I have to guard myself to against the urge to proselytize because I'm really excited about all the new stuff I get to do as a Catholic. But, um, yeah, no, I appreciate this conversation because I think the best thing is putting words to what we're all seeing, and we are all confused. And to kind of go full circle with where we started, like I'm totally reacting against my parents in many ways. Not my parents did a great job with me. I
right,
love my
right.
parents,
You're not a
but
rebel.
no, I'm not rebelling. But
No.
there's some things where I'm like, I would have liked some more structure in my teenage years,
Yeah.
and I'm finding that here in the Catholic Church. And my dad, he lived in like Costa Mesa, California. He hated the TBN Pentecostal televangelist thing. He wanted to go out to the country and live on a farm with these ascetic Hutterites
Yep.
and do that. And so, like, who knows what my kids are going to be reacting against when they grow up. I hope they stay Catholic, but I have limited control over that, and I have limited control over the world that they're going to be living in. And man, I'm keeping my kids away from AI as long as I possibly can. I'll tell you that.
Well, that's wise, and I would limit the screens, and I would, give them the best education that you and your wife can possibly give them. And because whatever way they go and whatever world they have to engage, yeah, giving them a human upbringing will help them and form them to make the best decisions that they have to make when they're your age. So
Amen. Well, I want to I hope that they will want to take care of me and that I don't have to go live in an old folks home.
I
So
think they will. I suspect you and your wife are good parents, and generally speaking, kids will recognize that and they'll love you even if they disagree with you, just like you love your parents, even if you disagree with them.
amen. Well, thank you so much for having me on, Paul. This
Oh,
was
Sam, this was fun.
stimulating.
All right. You take care. I just be prepared. I bet you some other people are going to want to reach out to you and further the conversation.
Well, I love these conversations, and I'm going to keep watching your videos, and I look forward to more.
All right. Thanks,
All
Sam.
right. See you,
Take
Paul.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye.